Okay, let's just jump right in. There's a huge global shift happening right now as we speak. The internet, the one we'd all grew up with, well, it's closing down. And look, this isn't some far-off prediction for the future. Nope, it's happening today. All around the world, governments are basically building digital walls, and it's changing the whole idea of a free and open web into, well, something totally different. Yeah, we're now officially living in the age of the splinternet. It's this idea that the web isn't one big unified thing anymore. Instead, it's breaking apart, fracturing into all these different national networks, and each one has its own rules, its own restrictions, its own digital borders. So the big question is, what's behind all this? Why is this happening now? Why are so many different countries all at the same time deciding to kind of fence off their little piece of the internet? Okay, so to understand this, you gotta remember that for, a decade? These huge global platforms just grew and grew with almost no oversight. But now, that whole consensus has completely flipped. There are really three major forces pushing governments everywhere to finally step in and act. And these three things are protecting kids, securing the nation, and, well, making sure their own laws are actually enforced. These are the big pillars of this whole new era of walling off the internet, and they're changing, literally, everything about our online lives. So let's break down how this actually looks in the real world. We're going to look at three case studies, and we'll start with the one that probably hits closest to home for most people, protecting children from harm. Right, first up is Australia. On December 10th, 2025, they did something pretty groundbreaking, and what makes it so different is this. For the first time, the full weight of responsibility is on the social media platforms themselves. It's not on parents anymore, trying to fight against these invisible algorithms. And make no mistake, Australia isn't some random outlier. It's more like the first domino to fall. We're seeing this global chain reaction kick off, with countries all over, from Malaysia to Denmark, drawing up plans for their own age restrictions. Each one's a little different, but the trend is unmistakable. And how are they enforcing this? With some serious financial muscle. We're talking about a $50 million penalty. That's not just a slap on the wrist, no way. It's a loud and clear message that the days of, oh, we'll regulate ourselves are officially over. Okay, so that's child safety. The second big driver takes this whole thing a step further. The focus shifts from protecting individual citizens to protecting the state itself. We're now at a point where certain apps are being treated like their critical national infrastructure, like a power grid or water supply. And the biggest example of this, of course, is TikTok in the US. After years and years of back and forth, the government basically forced a solution. They didn't go for an outright ban. Instead, they mandated that a whole new company be created. You can think of it as an American TikTok, specifically designed to cut all the important ties with its parent company in China. And if you look at who owns this new company, it's a huge transfer of power. ByteDance, the original creator, is now just a minority shareholder in its own US baby. And this is so much bigger than just where the data is stored. It's really about something called algorithmic sovereignty. It's about making sure a foreign power can't control the algorithm and influence what millions of Americans see every day. And this sets a massive precedent for how other countries might handle foreign tech. Alright, that brings us to our third and final driver. So what happens when a giant global tech platform basically decides it's above the laws of an entire country? Well, Brazil just gave us a very, very clear answer. This was a massive game of chicken between X and the Brazilian courts, and the judiciary did not blink. They just shut the whole platform down nationwide. The message couldn't have been clearer, and it wasn't just for X, it was for all of Silicon Valley. The party's over. You either comply with our laws and our courts, or you don't get to do business here, period. So you can see why governments are doing this. But how? These bans sound simple enough, but actually putting them into practice, that's a whole other story. It's incredibly hard. How do you really know how old someone is online? Well, the answer gets into this really complex, kind of controversial tech field called age assurance. So platforms basically have two ways to do this. There's age verification, which is like checking a government ID. It's super accurate, but yikes, the privacy concerns are massive. Then there's age estimation, which uses AI to guess your age from your face. It's way less invasive, but it can be really inaccurate and even biased, especially for certain groups of people. So yeah, there's just no perfect solution here. The best solution anyone's come up with is something called a waterfall approach. The idea is you start with the least creepy method, like the AI face scan. and you only move on to the more intrusive stuff like asking for an ID if you absolutely have to. It's a decent attempt to balance safety and privacy, but let's be real, it's still a really imperfect system for a very messy problem. But here's the thing, even with all these technical problems, the political will to do something is just overwhelming. The public support for these kinds of bans is staggering. You look at the numbers and it's clear people all over the world are demanding that their governments take action. Okay, but there's a really powerful counter-argument to all of this. You have organizations like UNICEF pointing out that these bans could seriously backfire. They warn that for some marginalized kids, social media is a lifeline, and if you ban them, you might just push them into darker, less safe, totally unregulated parts of the internet to get around the rules. So, what if building walls isn't the answer at all? There is another way. The European Union is taking a completely different approach. Instead of trying to ban users, they're focusing on making the platforms themselves fundamentally safer by regulating how they actually work. It's all part of their Digital Services Act, or the DSA. It could say it's all about de-weaponizing the algorithms. The DSA does things like ban targeted ads for kids and forces platforms to deal with problems like addiction right at the source. It's a totally different philosophy, really. The goal is to fix the system itself, not just kick the users off. So, after all that, where are we? Well, that old kind of romantic idea of one single open global internet, that dream is fading, and it's fading fast. What's replacing it is this messy, complex patchwork of different national internets, each with its own set of rules. And it's really important to see that this isn't some simple story with good guys and bad guys. It's a massive collision of deeply important values. We're talking about safety versus freedom, national sovereignty versus globalism, privacy versus protection, and there are just no easy answers here. So as we all try to figure out how to live in this new walled-off digital world, we're left with this one fundamental question. In our race to make the internet safer, are we actually making it better? Or are we just building higher and higher walls?